The unconventional Ambassador Captain Ilara Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Deterrent, her fingers drumming a restless pattern on the armrest of her command chair. The viewscreen displayed the vast emptiness of space, punctuated by distant stars and the occasional shimmer of interstellar dust. Her ship, a Jupiter-class heavy cruiser, bristled with weapon systems that could reduce a small moon to molten slag. Not exactly the vessel one would expect to see at a diplomatic summit. Remind me again why Earth Command thought sending a warship to our first Galactic Assembly meeting was a good idea? She asked, glancing at her XO, Commander Jamal Washington. Washington's mouth quirked upward in a half-smile. Admiral Kowalski's exact words were, "Make an impression they won't forget." I think what they wanted was a seat at the table, not to flip the table over, Chen muttered, though there was no real heat in her words. She understood the logic, even if she didn't entirely agree with it. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago, and in that short time, they'd learned that the galaxy was both more crowded and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The political officer assigned to the mission, Dr. Maya Patel, approached with a datapad in hand. Unlike the rest of the crew in their sharp military uniforms, she wore the midnight blue of the diplomatic corps, her only concession to authority the small Earth insignia on her lapel. "Captain, I've prepared the final briefing on the known assembly species," she said, her voice carrying the clipped accent of New Delhi. 17 confirmed council members, each representing multiple worlds or systems. Chen accepted the datapad with a nod. "Any particular ones we should worry about?" "The Valhari Empire has expressed the most concern about our rapid technological development," Patel replied, choosing her words carefully. "They're traditionally the most militaristic of the assembly members." "Meaning they don't like competition," Washington translated. "Precisely," Patel agreed. "They've dominated assembly security matters for over 3 centuries. Our arrival with capabilities matching or exceeding theirs has been unsettling to them." Chen scrolled through the information, pausing on an image of the Valhari, tall, avian-like beings with iridescent plumage and sharp predatory eyes. "They look like someone crossed an eagle with a velociraptor." "An apt description of both their appearance and temperament," Patel said dryly. The communications officer, Lieutenant Sorensen, suddenly straightened in her seat. "Captain, we're being hailed. 3 vessels approaching from Sector 37. On screen," Chen ordered, sitting up straighter in her chair. The viewscreen flickered, revealing a Valhari officer, resplendent in what appeared to be ceremonial armor, metallic plates catching the light of their ship's bridge. "Earth vessel," the alien began, their translator rendering the words with a strange musical quality. "This is Commander Kirvosh of the Valhari Protectorate Fleet. Your presence has been noted. State your business in this sector." Chen rose to IE, her feet, shoulders squared. "Commander Kirvosh, I am Captain Ilara Chen of the Earth Spaceship Deterrent. We are en route to Unity Station for the Galactic Assembly Summit, at the invitation of the Assembly Council." The Valhari's head tilted, feathers ruffling slightly, whether in surprise or irritation, Chen couldn't tell. "A warship for a diplomatic meeting?" "The deterrent serves multiple functions," Chen replied smoothly, "including escorting diplomatic personnel safely to their destination." "I see." The Valhari commander's eyes narrowed. "Be advised, Earth vessel, that weapon systems of your caliber are typically powered down before approaching assembly space." Chen smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you for the advisory, Commander. We'll take it under consideration." "That was not," the Valhari began, but Chen cut the transmission with a gesture. "Well," Washington said into the silence that followed, "that went about as well as expected." Dr. Patel pinched the bridge of her nose. "Captain, perhaps we should consider powering down our weapon systems?" Chen finished. "And leave ourselves defenseless in unknown territory? I think not." She turned to her navigation officer. "Lieutenant Park, maintain course and speed. We have an appointment to keep." The journey to Unity Station took another 3 days, during which the Valhari vessels maintained a parallel course at a respectful distance, never approaching but never leaving either. Chen ordered regular shift rotations and combat drills, keeping the crew sharp and the ship at peak readiness. When they finally arrived, even the jaded military personnel of the deterrent couldn't help but be impressed. Unity Station hung in, space like a massive crystalline snowflake, its symmetrical arms extending outward from a central hub that glowed with internal light. Ships of all sizes and configurations orbited or docked at various points along its structure. "It's beautiful," Lieutenant Park whispered. "And heavily armed," added Tactical Officer Lieutenant Cruz, her eyes on her sensor readings. "I'm detecting multiple weapon emplacements, though they appear to be powered down." "Keep an eye on them," Chen ordered. "Dr. Patel, I believe this is where your expertise takes center stage." Patel nodded, though she looked somewhat pale. "The Assembly has assigned us Docking Bay 42. They've requested that only essential personnel disembark initially." "Define essential," Chen said, her voice hardening. "They specified you, myself, and 2 aides," Patel replied. "I was going to suggest Commander Washington and Lieutenant Cruz." Chen considered this. "Agreed, but I want a secure communication, linked to the ship at all times, and a marine security detail ready to deploy at a moment's notice." "Captain, that might be seen as prudent," Chen interrupted firmly. "This isn't a social call, Doctor. This is humanity's introduction to a complex political body that has already demonstrated suspicion toward us. I intend to be prepared." Hours later, after docking procedures that seemed unnecessarily complicated and a security scan that Chen found intrusively thorough, they stood in what the Assembly called the Welcome Chamber. The room was vast, with a high domed ceiling and walls that seemed to shift subtly in color and texture. Representatives from at least a dozen species stood in small clusters, conversing quietly among themselves. "They're all watching us," Washington murmured, his hand never straying far from his sidearm. "Of course they are," Chen replied. "We're the new kids on the block, and we showed up in the equivalent of a tank." Dr. Patel moved forward to speak with a tall, willowy being that appeared to be composed of living crystal. Chen watched the interaction carefully, noting how the other representatives seemed to drift closer, ostensibly engaged in their own conversations but clearly eavesdropping. "Captain," Lieutenant Cruz said quietly, her hand to her earpiece. "The ship is reporting unusual scanner activity. Something is probing our systems." Chen's expression didn't change, but her posture tensed. "Source?" "Unknown, but it's coming from somewhere on the station." Before Chen could respond, a new figure entered the chamber. Unlike the others, this one moved with unmistakable authority. A Valhari, more elaborately adorned than Commander Kirvosh had been, flanked by what were clearly security personnel. Ambassador Tirvex, Washington identified from his briefing materials, head of the Valhari delegation and current Security Council chair. The ambassador approached directly, ignoring protocol and interrupting Dr. Patel's conversation. Up close, the Valhari was even more imposing, standing nearly 7 feet tall with feathers in shades of midnight blue and gold. "Captain Chen," Tirvex said without preamble, "your vessel is of great interest to the Assembly." Chen inclined her head slightly. "The Deterrent is one of Earth's finest ships." "Indeed. Our preliminary scans indicate technology that is, surprisingly, advanced for a species so newly arrived on the galactic stage." Chen's smile thinned. "We're quick learners, so it would seem." The ambassador's gaze was calculating. "The Assembly Security Council has requested a more thorough inspection of your vessel. Standard procedure for new member applications." Dr. Patel started to speak, but Chen raised a hand, silencing her. "I wasn't aware that Earth had applied for membership. My understanding was that this meeting was exploratory." Tirvex's feathers ruffled slightly. "A formality. All civilized species eventually join the Assembly. And part of this formality includes inspecting our military technology?" Chen asked, her voice deceptively mild. "For cataloging purposes only," the ambassador assured her. though the predatory gleam in their eyes suggested otherwise. Chen was about to respond when Lieutenant Cruz touched her arm. "Captain, we're receiving an encrypted transmission. It's not coming from the deterrent." Intrigued, Chen excused herself and moved to a quiet corner where Cruz activated a small handheld device. A holographic message appeared, text only. "Not all in assembly agree with Valhari methods. Their inspections have stripped 8 emerging species of key technologies in last century. Beware treaty of technological harmonization. Many watch your response with hope." The message disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, leaving no trace in their systems. Chen rejoined the group, her mind racing. The game had just become considerably more complex. "Ambassador Tirvex," she said, her voice carrying in the now quiet chamber. "I regret that I must decline your request to inspect the deterrent. Earth's technology is not available for cataloging at this time." A hush fell over the room. The ambassador's feathers bristled visibly, creating a frightening display. "Captain, perhaps you misunderstand. This is not a request. The Treaty of Technological Harmonization requires all potential members to submit to assessment. Since Earth is not a signatory to this treaty, we are not bound by its terms," Chen replied calmly. "We came here to establish diplomatic relations, not to surrender our sovereignty or technology." Around the room, Chen noticed subtle reactions. A few beings shrinking back, but others watching with what appeared to be growing interest or even hope. Ambassador Tirvex stepped closer, using their height to loom over Chen. "Then perhaps Earth is not ready for contact with the wider galaxy. If you are not willing to abide by assembly protocols, we're willing to abide by fair and reciprocal protocols," Chen interrupted, "but not by thinly veiled attempts at technological appropriation." The ambassador's translator must have struggled with the idiom, because there was a momentary pause before Tirvex responded, their voice now threaded with anger. "You accuse the assembly of theft?" "I make no accusations," Chen said. "I merely decline to participate in your inspection." "Then you leave us no choice," the ambassador said coldly. "Your ship will be contained until you reconsider." As if on cue, the lights in the chamber dimmed momentarily, and Lieutenant Cruz's hand flew to her earpiece. "Captain," she said urgently, "the deterrent reports they're being targeted by station weapons. Multiple systems coming online around our docking bay." Chen looked directly into the ambassador's alien eyes. "Are you declaring war on Earth, Ambassador? Because that's what an attack on our vessel would constitute." For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed the Valhari's features. "Not war, Captain. Merely enforcement of assembly security protocols." Chen tapped her communicator. "Chen to deterrent. Defensive protocol echo. Acknowledge." "Acknowledged, Captain," came the crisp response of Lieutenant Commander Reyes, the officer, left in command of the ship. Protocol echo initiated. Around them, alarms began to sound throughout the station. When strength earns respect, the welcome chamber erupted into chaos as status reports flooded the station's communication system. Ambassador Tirvex was immediately surrounded by aides and security personnel, all talking urgently, while representatives from other species looked on with expressions ranging from alarm to poorly concealed satisfaction. Dr. Patel gripped Chen's arm. "Captain, what exactly is defensive protocol echo?" Chen kept her eyes on the Valhari ambassador as she answered. "A measured response to being targeted. The deterrent has activated its defensive shield grid and powered up targeting systems. No weapons have been charged yet." Washington grinned. "Also, our ship's AI is currently analyzing every weapon emplacement on this station and calculating optimal countermeasures." "You've automated your tactical systems?" Patel asked, looking horrified. "Not completely," Chen assured her. "There's always a human in the decision loop. But ARIA, Advanced Responsive Intelligence Architecture, can process tactical data far faster than any organic crew." On the other side of the chamber, Ambassador Tirvex seemed to reach a decision. The Valhari approached again, this time flanked by security officers from several species. Their posture was rigid with barely controlled fury. "Your actions threaten this entire station, Captain," they said, voice lowered to a dangerous hiss. "Power down your systems immediately." Chen stood her ground, aware that Commander Washington and Lieutenant Cruz had shifted to flanking positions beside her. My actions? You targeted my ship first, Ambassador. We merely responded in kind. A routine security measure. Was it routine when you used this same tactic against the Novan Collective? Chen interrupted. Or the Tau Ceti Coalition? Or any of the other emerging species whose technology you've appropriated under the guise of harmonization? There was a ripple of reaction around the chamber. A small gray-skinned being with large liquid eyes stepped forward hesitantly. The human speaks truth, they said, their voice soft but clear. The Novans were once our allies. After their inspection, their stellar engineering capabilities mysteriously became Valhari technology. Another representative, this one resembling a massive reptilian quadruped, rumbled in agreement. The Ceti weapon systems that defended their colonies from the void swarms were also surrendered in such a manner. Ambassador Tiervex's plumage flattened in anger. These matters were settled by assembly consensus. By coercion, you mean? Chen cut in. She turned to address the chamber at large. Earth has no quarrel with the assembly or its members. We came here in good faith, seeking diplomatic relations, but we will not surrender our technology or sovereignty under threat. Pretty words. The ambassador sneered. But your warship speaks your true intentions. You humans think you can force your way into galactic politics through military might. Chen allowed herself a small smile. If that were true, Ambassador, the deterrent would have arrived with its weapon systems hot, not powered down. We brought strength to ensure respect, not to threaten. She gestured toward her companions. We came with diplomats alongside our military personnel. Earth seeks both peace and security. One need not exclude the other. The crystalline being that Dr. Patel had been speaking with earlier moved to the center of the chamber. When they spoke, their voice resonated like wind chimes. I am Elder Violet of the Luminary Concord, they announced. For too long, the Security Council led by the Valhari has dictated assembly policy regarding emerging species. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered this approach. The Valhari ambassador's feathers bristled. The treaty has maintained peace. It has maintained Valhari dominance, countered the reptilian representative, while the rest of us have been reduced to client states or technological dependencies. As the debate escalated, Lieutenant Cruz leaned closer to Chen. Captain, the deterrent reports unusual activity. 3 ships have broken formation from the station's defense perimeter and are moving to positions that appear protective. Identify, Chen ordered quietly. 1 luminary vessel and 2 others of unknown configuration. They're positioning themselves between the station weapons and our ship. A small, satisfied smile touched Chen's lips. It seems we're not without allies. At that moment, a new alert sounded and a holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the space around Unity Station, where the deterrent hung in its docking bay, now partially surrounded by 3 other vessels. Ambassador Tiervex looked thunderstruck. What is the meaning of this treachery? Elder Violet's crystalline form sparkled with what might have been amusement. Not treachery, Ambassador. Democracy. The Luminary Concord moves to sponsor Earth's application for observer status in the Assembly, under our protection rather than Valhari assessment. The chamber erupted again, this time with multiple representatives voicing support or objection. Chen caught Dr. Patel's eye and saw the diplomat struggling to maintain her professional composure despite her obvious delight. You've miscalculated, Ambassador, Chen said to Tiervex, pitching her voice to Carrie. You assumed our strength meant we sought dominance. What it actually means is that we cannot be dominated. This changes nothing, the Valhari hissed. The Security Council still, actually, interrupted a new voice as another being entered the chamber. The full Assembly Council has convened an emergency session and voted to suspend the Treaty of Technological Harmonization pending review. The newcomer was tall and slender, with skin that shifted through rainbow hues and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies. Chen recognized them from her briefings as the Assembly High Moderator, a supposedly neutral party who oversaw council proceedings. High Moderator Zinn, Ambassador Tirvek said, clearly struggling to maintain composure. This is highly irregular. What is irregular, Ambassador? The High Moderator replied. Is threatening a diplomatic mission with military action. The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They turned to Chen with an evaluating gaze. Though your choice of vessel was provocative. Chen inclined her head. In our brief history of interstellar contact, we've found that respect often begins with strength. We came prepared, not aggressive. A distinction the Valhari might benefit from learning, the High Moderator observed dryly, causing several representatives to make sounds that Chen's translator rendered as laughter. What happens now? Dr. Patel asked, stepping forward in her diplomatic capacity. High Moderator Zinn gestured expansively. Now, Doctor, we begin actual diplomacy. Earth will be granted observer status with the Luminari as sponsors. Your technology remains your own, though we would welcome scientific exchange on mutually beneficial terms. Chen felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Her orders had been to establish Earth's presence without compromising its security or independence. Against considerable odds, they'd achieved exactly that. And the station weapons targeting my ship? She asked pointedly. With a wave of their hand, the High Moderator dismissed the holographic display. Being powered down as we speak. I trust you will extend the same courtesy? Chen nodded and tapped her communicator. Chen to deterrent. Stand. Down from defensive protocol echo. Maintain standard alert status. As the tension in the chamber gradually dissipated, representatives began to approach the Earth delegation with what appeared to be genuine curiosity rather than hostility. Dr. Patel was soon engaged in animated conversation with delegates from 3 different species, while Commander Washington found himself comparing notes on security protocols with a fascinated audience. Lieutenant Cruz moved closer to Chen, speaking under her breath. Captain, the encrypted source that warned us earlier has sent another message. Chen glanced at the handheld display. The Valhari dominance has gone unchallenged for too long. Your stand has emboldened many. Coalition of independent systems would welcome Earth delegation at coordinates attached. We have much to discuss. Interesting, Chen murmured. It seems our unconventional approach has opened more doors than we anticipated. Your orders were to establish contact with the Assembly, Cruz pointed out, not to start a galactic realignment. Chen watched as Ambassador Tirvex retreated from the chamber, flanked by their increasingly isolated delegation. Sometimes, Lieutenant, the most effective diplomacy comes from unexpected quarters. She glanced at the weapon still holstered at her side. Earth sent a warship to a diplomatic meeting. And it worked, Cruz finished with a small smile. Indeed, it did, Chen agreed. Now the real work begins. As the Earth delegation settled into their newly negotiated role, Captain Chen couldn't help but reflect on Admiral Kowalski's instructions. Make an impression they won't forget, he'd said. Mission accomplished.